What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my Last of Us content, and this is the top 10 moments in The Last of Us Part 2. Yesterday, I dropped my top 10 moments in The Last of Us. If you have not seen that, check that out. I also have reviews of the first game and a spoiler and spoiler-free review of The Last of Us Part 2 if you want my more in-depth thoughts on the games themselves. And I'm going to be doing this video alongside Zach Pope, so his video link's going to be in the description below after you get done watching this one. Go and watch his video, check out what his top 10 moments in The Last of Us Part 2 is. He's the one that I actually did my spoiler chat with, so we have a lot of similar feelings on this game, and I'm sure we're going to have these moments ranked very differently, or he might have some that I don't even have on my list. So be sure to check that out, hit the subscribe button over there, leave a comment saying that Cody sent you. And as far as my list, let's get rolling. Obviously, spoiler alert, I don't think that should have to be said, but I've been proven wrong in the past. Spoilers ahead. Also, let me say this. I really enjoyed The Last of Us Part 2. If you're somebody that did not enjoy The Last of Us Part 2, or decided that you're not going to like The Last of Us Part 2, or read some bullet point leaks on fucking Reddit and decided that you're gonna bitch about the game and cry about what you didn't get and what should have been and how you could have made a better game than these guys, this is not the video for you. So number 10, we're gonna go ahead and get this one out of the way now. Joel's death. Now, when I say favorite moments of The Last of Us Part 2, I am in no way or shape or form celebrating the fact that Joel died. It is a gut punch moment. It is an emotional moment. It's gross, it's disgusting, but it is powerful. And if you were on board for the story that The Last of Us Part 2 has in store for you, it is a huge moment in the game. Possibly the biggest moment for most people that play it. From the way that you switch perspective over to Abby and you get these subtle little hints that there's somebody in Jackson that these people are looking for, you get all the way to the point where she's about to be basically taken over by this horde and Joel and Tommy show up out of nowhere to save her. It's the first moment that you get to see Joel in this actual time frame, so that's a cool time where 4 years have passed since the opening sequence of the game, and now you get to see what Joel looks like, what he's up to, including Tommy. You get a very intense gameplay sequence where there's just a bunch of infected coming after all three of them, and you're just frantically going around trying to survive, coming all the way to the point where Joel and Tommy feel safe enough in this group of survivors that they found with Abby that they walk in to try to kind of let the horde go by, and letting their names out there, and you just feel the air get let out of the room in a second whenever he says that his name is Joel, and you just see everybody that is in Abby's group just kind of look up like, what?
Y'all act like you heard of us or something.
Because they have.
And while I understand for a lot of people it was too much, it wasn't a direction that they enjoyed or that worked for them, and it was maybe too brutal and too gross the way that they showed how bad his death really was, to me it works for setting up the vengeance of Ellie, to where you switch perspective to Ellie and you just hear Joel's screams as he's getting his head beat in. And that whole sequence where she's held on the ground and looking at him, and it's like that last moment between the two of them where you don't really realize it at the time because the story hasn't let you know yet, but you feel like this beginning of forgiveness between them in those last moments.
Get up! Joel, fucking get up! Please stop! Please don't do this! Joel, please get up!
It's a huge, powerful moment in the game, and it does come in at number 10. Number 9 is a flashback sequence where I believe it is 2 years after Ellie and Joel get back into Jackson, and you're walking around in this hotel with Joel, to where you started using some sniper rifles, you're starting to kind of hone your craft a little bit. There's still a little bit of funkiness between you and Joel. It's not quite broken yet, but there's this sequence where you're in this hotel, and it's that classic The Last of Us feeling where you have that father-daughter dynamic going on, only you're playing as Ellie. And shit kind of goes crazy with the infected being in this hotel, leading up to this bloater fight, which is kind of the moment that solidifies this is a great moment for me because of them sneaking through the wall and the pipe breaking and just the look on her face.
Come on!
it's Joel's reaction to this whole sequence that makes it stand out to me, to where he just goes head on into this huge ass infected beast, just beating the shit out of it and shooting it and throwing things at it. Come on, get away from her! Like that whole paternal thing with him and Ellie, where he's just able to throw everything out there and just get beat and obliterated by this thing if that's what it takes for her to be safe. It's a great moment between those two. It's a cool gameplay moment, but I just love that it feels the most like the first game. Number 8 for me is the moment when Ellie kills Owen and Mel. Now, we've already had 2 people killed up to this point. Another one I'm going to talk about later on, but you get into this whole aquarium, and this is when you're going to find your answers of where is Abby. And you have Owen, her on-again, off-again lover, and Mel, the pregnant, maybe girlfriend, maybe just side chick of Owen, standing there. And everything just goes south. It goes tits up in seconds, to where she's just trying to get information. Owen charges at her, gets shot right in the gut. Mel tries to stab at her. She gets killed. But the moment that solidifies this for me as deserving to be on this list is when Owen is trying to tell her that she is pregnant while he's dying. And just the realization on Ellie's face when she goes over and pulls the jacket aside and sees that pregnant belly of this woman that she's just killed. It's emotionally powerful for the character of Ellie and for where the story and the themes of the second game start to really take hold in this moment. But for me, as a player, as the person who is controlling Ellie, it hit me the same way, to where, you know, you want vengeance. You have this bloodlust after Joel is killed. You want these guys to just die violently, painfully, slowly, and you want to enjoy every second that you're pressing buttons making it happen. Until this moment. As soon as that pregnant belly is shown, it's like, oh wow, what is the cost of what I am doing? Number 7 is one of the moments that open up the game, to where Ellie and Joel are back in Jackson. It's basically right after the end of the first game. And Joel comes in with this guitar and finally lives up to his promise that he is going to play and sing for Ellie, which is why I really like it, because it carries over from the first game. It's something that they talk about a couple of times in like the last third of the story in the first game, that she wants him to sing for her. He's like, I'm gonna teach you how to play guitar. And when he sits down and gives you this very kind of raw, stripped down version of this song that kind of becomes Joel's theme throughout the rest of the game, it's just a very cool moment between those characters for me, mostly because it does pay off a very subtle exchange from the first game, and just once again reinforces how great these characters are and how great their character dynamic is with each other.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. Everything I have found here, I'm not found by myself.
Going along with that, number 6 for me is going to be the Take On Me cover. This is a moment that you can miss if you don't explore very much in Seattle Day 1. But whenever you enter Seattle and you're playing as Ellie and you have Dina with you, if you go into this music store, there's a part where you can find an acoustic guitar and you sit down and start playing it, and a cutscene plays to where they're on this bloodlust, vengeance, mission, and they're out trying to survive. If you went to the bank, you just got done killing a bunch of clickers. You sit down in this music shop, and it's one of those great quiet moments where everything just kind of simmers down in The Last of Us, similar to the giraffe moment in the first game, to where post-apocalyptic world, blood-soaked, death, misery, pain, all of that stuff just kind of washes to the background, and you just get to hear Ellie play this acoustic version of this 80s pop song to Dina. And it's this very cool exchange between them, to where They're kind of longing for what they used to have and remembering, you know, nights on the bonfire before all this madness came about, before Joel's death. And it's one of those moments that's just necessary in a story like this, that The Last of Us 1 and 2 does a great job of inserting it right in the perfect moments to where things have gotten so crazy and heavy and intense, and then they just lighten it up with something cool like this. Number 5 is going to be another flashback, and that is the museum birthday sequence, to where you have Ellie as a young girl, not very long after the end of the first game, to where Joel is taking her into the woods for a birthday surprise, and they come across this abandoned, decrepit museum where there's dinosaurs. Eventually there is like astronomy and rockets and everything like that. And it's just, again, one of those quieter moments in the game to where, aside from a small part of it, you're not really dealing with the infected, you're not really dealing with heavy themes. It's just father and daughter bonding together. And there's a lot of moments like that in The Last of Us Part 2, to where it's one of my big arguments against the disrespect of the character of Joel, or whatever the fuck the big argument out there is with his death, is that Joel is still very much a prominent piece of this game, and their relationship continues to bloom through these flashbacks and these different little pieces of information that were given throughout the game. And this is one of the better ones, to where it's almost the most happy that Ellie has ever been, and it's almost like the strongest moment of their relationship, to where he just has this awesome surprise for her, and she's just elated that he was able to do this for her, ending on a bit of a downer note, to where they're getting ready to leave and they just see this Fireflies emblem, you know, of graffiti, and it says liars beneath it. And it just sets her right back into that moment to where she doesn't quite trust the story that Joel told her. So all of that happiness just kind of gets yanked from her in the last second. It's powerful stuff. Number 4 is the Rat King boss battle. Holy shit. The whole lead up to this thing was crazy intense as it is, where you're Abby, you're trying to escape from all of these WLF members that are now looking for you. You're down in the basement of this hospital on a floor where they have not had the balls to even check yet because there's so much infected. And you come across this door to where you hear something behind it. And knowing that it was a sequel, and knowing that we were going to get more expanded versions of the infected in this, I was like, what the hell am I about to fight behind that door? You come back to it later on, the door is blown open, and there's this blood trail, and almost like the Hulk ran through these doors, and I'm like, oh my God. So much lead up that just subtly lets you know that you're about to get your ass whooped. And man, this whole blob thing, I called it the blob until I realized they called it the Rat King, but this blob infected, to where there's all these different creatures, from runners and stalkers and clickers, that are all kind of molded together into this big monster that's chasing you throughout this little kind of circular path in this hospital, to where you have to run around. And I didn't have very much ammo. I was playing on hard for my first playthrough, so I had to really run around, try to lose it for a second, get ammo, reload, or change weapons, and it's charging right at you. I've played a lot of intense boss battles, but this one had my palms sweating. It was a crazy ass moment. It was one of the most intense moments of both of these games put together. And one of my favorite moments playing is Abby, because Abby plays much more ferocious than Ellie does, and a lot tougher. She plays similar to Joel in those respects. And so her going up against this kind of felt like more of a intense battle, I guess, than it would have if you were playing as Ellie, where you know you're probably gonna get fucked up pretty bad. Number 3 is gonna be when you are hunting down Nora. This is the first member of the WLF that you're actually interrogating for a moment, where you're asking her, where is Abby? And there's this whole exchange between her where they really trick you, to where she's talking about, do you still hear his screams? And in that moment I was like, oh crap, she's gonna make me feel bad about this. And then she says, yeah, that little bitch deserved it. And I'm like, oh really? I'm gonna fuck you up bad. And you have this great chase throughout the hospital, to where it's very fast and fluid and intense, where you're jumping over things, you're busting through doors, you're taking shortcuts, you're going around where she's locked doors or barricaded things. Other people are shooting at you while you're doing it. All culminating in this really cool moment, to where you finally get her and you're pointing the gun at the other members, and you look down and see that the floor beneath you is covered in spores, which is fatal to everybody else but you. And you just drop her ass down into there with you and basically doom her to death. And nobody understands until you actually walk up to her and confront her in a really cool scene that you're the immune one. You're the legend. You're Ellie. That whole intense sequence where you're hunting down Nora, I thought it was badass. Number 2 in top 10 moments in The Last of Us Part 2 for me is another time when you were playing as Abby, and visually, this is my favorite part of the game. It's when you are in the island, you're at the Scars base, if you will, this village, and the WLF and the Scars are going at it. You're trying to escape with Lev, and this whole village is just starting to slowly set on fire. The whole exchange of just going through, trying to avoid both factions, trying to fight off some of them while trying to avoid both of them at the same time, and kind of choose your own adventure as far as how you play that. But just the visuals of this village burning and everything in the distance, like the scope when you look out into the distance in this game is incredible, and you just see so much carnage going on trying to escape this village. It's intense, it's gorgeous, and it's a very cool way for somebody that started to really enjoy playing as Abby and was brought around to her character, and the things that they were going for with that character started to really work for me. This was a very cool way to kind of wrap up her whole storyline with the WLF and the Scars. But my number 1 moment in The Last of Us Part 2 is another flashback, and it is the one that we were all waiting for from the moment that the first game ended, and it's the moment when Ellie finally learns the truth, where she goes and travels all the way back to that Firefly hospital. She finds a tape recording that basically completely goes against everything that Joel said about there being multiple people that are infected and they couldn't find a cure. And she basically straight up asks him, tell me the truth and I'll go back to Jackson, or lie to me and you'll never see me again. And it's the voice acting and the motion capture work to where Troy Baker bringing out the emotions in Joel whenever he finally has to say what he did.
Making a vaccine would have killed you. So I stopped them.
It's incredible. It's as emotionally satisfying as you could possibly expect this reveal moment to be. And then it's compounded by Ashley Johnson whenever she just starts breaking down as Ellie realizes that the last 2 years of her life has been a lie. Her life was basically stolen from her. Her fate, her savior sense was stolen from her by Joel. And their relationship is just splintered from there. From that moment to the moment to where she looks at him as he's dying, basically, as we come to find out by the end of the game, their relationship was done. It was not what it was in the first game, and it's just, for emotional moments, for satisfying character development, relationship development, that moment, that flashback was the one that I was waiting for, and it did not disappoint. And it is my number 1 moment in The Last of Us Part 2. So what do you guys think? What are your top 10 moments in The Last of Us Part 2? Please do not comment down below if you're just going to be negative and hateful and just spam a bunch of bullshit that you don't like this game. If you have reasons why some scenes didn't work for you, but you can still be constructive or positive, by all means, let me know down below. But if you're just a dickhead, move on, please. I told you at the beginning of the video, this is not for you. But for everybody else, let me know down below. Be sure to check out Zach Pope's video. The video description below is going to have his link, so check out his video, see what his top 10 moments in The Last of Us Part 2 is. Please like and share and hit the subscribe button over here and over on his channel. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.